Okay, welcome everybody to this week's lecture in cognitive psychology, and today we will speak about attention. And let's start with an introduction to attention and to the idea of that. And after we have had this introduction, we will discuss a couple of different models of attention spread across another 2 video clips, and then in the last clip for this week we will speak about automaticity. Okay, so let's have a look at attention and what it actually means. And I would like to start to introduce the idea of attention again with a brief clip from the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance with Matt Damon, Will Smith, and it's this scene of finding the field. And the background of the movie, if you don't know it, is that Matt Damon plays a golfer who has kind of lost his swing. He was in the First World War, got traumatized, and can't really play anymore and can't concentrate and focus anymore. And then this mysterious Will Smith character comes along and tries to bring him back on track by again finding the field, as he calls it, but it's really a lot about attention. Okay, let's have a look at this one.
Oh yes, greatest game there is. Right, Hardy?
Yes, sir.
The greatest game there will ever be.
Just you and the ball.
All by your lonesome. I think it's time.
Time for what?
Time for you to see the field.
The field? I see the field, but it's 445 yards long. It's got a little red flag at the end of it. It's 12 strokes ahead of me. Come on.
That ain't it. Because if you seen the field, you wouldn't be hacking at that ball like you was chopping weeds out from under your front porch.
Just give me the club.
Sorry I brought it up. Here, you're going to take that hack away.
All right, what's the field?
Fix your eyes on Bobby Jones.
He's a piece of work here right now.
Whoa, in the man room. Man room. Knock it out there, Bobby.
Look at his practice swing. Almost like it's searching for something. Then he finds it. Watch how he settle himself right into the middle of it. Feel that focus. And he got a lot of shots he could choose from. Duffs and tops and skulls. There's only one shot that's in perfect harmony with the field. One shot that's his. Authentic shot. And that shot is going to choose him. There's a perfect shot out there trying to find each and every one of us. All we got to do is get ourselves out of its way. Let it choose us. Look at him. He in the field. You can't see that flag as some dragon you got to slay. You have to look with soft eyes. See the place where the tides and the seasons and the turning of the earth all come together. Where everything that is becomes one. You got to seek that place with your soul, Junior. Seek it with your hands. Don't think about it. Feel it. Your hands is wiser than your head ever gonna be. Now, I can't take you there, Junior. Just hopes I can help you find a way. That's you, that ball, that flag, and all you are. Seek it with your hands. Don't think about it. Feel that
Looking at it,
focus.
Junior.
Feel it. It's just There's you. only one shot that's in perfect
That ball.
harmony. You don't see that.
It's the home of your authentic swing. That flag and all that you are.
Even the blindest squirrel finds an acorn now and then, Bobby.
The rest of that afternoon is a blur. Juna kept asking question after question about the field, while Bagger just acted like nothing much had happened and kept making remarks about how much Hagen's socks must have cost and how long to drive tobacco leaves before...
And let me return to the PowerPoint. Yes, and as we will see in a moment, this film really nicely captured the essence of attention. Okay, so one of the earliest descriptions or definitions of attention has been put forward by William James, who is kind of the American who founded psychology, or the first proponent of psychology, and he wrote very famous book Principles of Psychology in 1890, where without really any or much experimentation described a lot of cognitive psychology and other psychological phenomena and provided examples, definitions, descriptions, which are still used today because he was so accurate in his just observations of that. So let's see what he said about attention. He said, everybody knows what attention is. It is the taking possession of the mind in a clear and vivid form of one out of what seem several simultaneously possible objects or trains of thought. Focalization, concentration of consciousness are of its essence. It implies withdrawal from some things in order to deal effectively with others. What really is key even to modern definitions of attention is this idea that we have several simultaneous objects, stimuli, whatever, and we pick one out. And we focalize or we concentrate on that one, and at the same time we withdraw our attention from other things. So, a more modern definition based on this would be that attention is the cognitive process of selectively concentrating on one aspect of the external or internal environment while ignoring other aspects. Now, what does that mean? It's external or internal environment means that it's not necessarily our attention can go to the external world, so that we listen to something, focus on something in our vision, but for instance also our attention can be attracted or can be put on our feeling of being hungry or thirsty or having pain somewhere. So this would be the internal environment. So, and while we focus on that, we ignore other aspects. And if you found the clip entertaining, or you can remember that, when you go back, you will see that the moment where Matt Damon then found his focus, the filmmakers blurred out all the background, and I think one or two shots were made where the audience is actually not present anymore. And the sound is all dampened out, the chatter of the audience and so forth. This exactly captures this element of when you're totally focused, you forget the world around you. The experimental research on attention started around the 1950s. So again, like cognitive psychology, a rather young discipline and area. In perception, we do need attention. So attention and perception are closely linked. And you can see that if we look around us, then we have the impression of, wow, the world's an amazing richness. There's a lot of detail, and we think we are fully aware of all of that. But that is a little bit deceiving, actually, because often we don't notice details of objects unless we really pay attention to them and direct them to them. And I would like to do a little demonstration with you, and that I had to change it slightly. It works better in the lecture hall, because there I know where you are and what's surrounding you. Now you are at home or wherever, and I don't know exactly. So if that doesn't work totally well for you, then please apologize for this. Apologies for this. Okay, so please close your eyes. I won't fool you or anything. Just ask you a couple of questions. So when your eyes are closed, I'm pretty sure you have a mobile phone. And you know that you can swipe through the screens, but there are always at the bottom a couple of symbols. What symbol is the most right item of this line of items? Try to remember that. Okay, keep your eyes closed. Another question. If you live with someone, like family, partners, or whatever, and you've seen them today, what's the color of their shirt or jumper or top, whatever they are wearing? Do you remember that? Keep your eyes closed. What's the color of the shirt or jumper I am wearing in this video right now? You probably looked over once or twice at least to my little video and didn't fully focus on the PowerPoint. Okay, you can open your eyes now, and I used to do that in the lecture and ask then via poll everywhere how many of these items people remembered, so to see how many they have forgotten. And it's quite astonishing that these things, our phone, we look at it I don't know how many times a day, and if we live with someone, we looked at them, we interacted with them, you looked at my video, and a lot of people have difficulties remembering these things, although from a perceptual point of view we have perceived them. However, we need to direct attention to them to properly process them and being able to memorize them later on. Another illustration that we do need attention to perceive things is the phenomenon of change blindness. And you may have come across this or heard this already. And Don Rensink in 1997 kind of discovered that and made this flicker paradigm very popular, so to say. And you can find that on their website, or if you just use flicker paradigm or change blindness in YouTube, you will find that as well. Let's look at a little video clip for that. Okay, let's go here and just follow the instructions on the screen for this one. I hope comes across well with the recording and then via the internet and everything. So you will see, you can look at the center, but even if you don't look at the center, it will work. And now something between these two images you see flickered back and forth, there was a change, and it was not a small change. And a lot of people miss that. Okay. The change is here. It's the trousers, which is either gray or blue. It's this area here where the change occurs. Oh, where's my mouse? Okay, just a final demonstration and then it's the background here which turns either light or dark gray. Okay, let's return to the PowerPoint. So we've seen that we really need attention to pick up major changes, and there are a lot of, when you search the internet, there are a lot of other examples where you can observe this. And if this didn't work very well in this lecture, just pause this for a moment and Google this and to see the demonstration, because it's quite powerful. Like in the last one with the dollar note, it's the background. We actually look at it. We can make sure that people do perceive the change, but still they don't notice it. Okay, now the authors or this research has sparked interesting follow-up research, and one big question is, okay, that seems to be a little bit artificial, having two images flickering and so forth. And people tried to push it to an extreme and thought, okay, will it work if you change the interaction partner in a conversation without the people noticing? And one critical component of this flicker paradigm is that you don't have only the two images flickering back and forth, but you may have noticed that there's actually a brief blank screen. So it's image 1, then a brief blank screen, and then image 2 comes up. The flicker paradigm does not work when you switch back and forth directly without the blank screen between them. The explanation for that is that it is assumed that our visual system is designed for continuous input. So change, and change includes also motion of objects, is determined on the basis of change in the input from one moment to the next. So it's a bottom-up driven perceptual analysis of the input. And this process is interrupted by this brief blank screen. And this makes it a non-continuous input. So our automatic systems for detecting changes do not work anymore. So what we have to do instead is that we have to deliberately search the scene with our attentional focus. So when you have these flicker things and you have them going on forever, for like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, the strategy of people to find the change is that, okay, I will now look at this person and observe them for 1 or 2 flickers with full attention on the details. Okay, everything seems to be fine. Then you go to the next object. So that's the only chance you can identify and detect changes here. Okay, so in this next demonstration where we want to look at the so-called door study, they had to artificially create this a simulation of this blank screen that we don't see somebody. So what they did was they approached somebody on campus, the experimenter, with his team, so to say, and asked some innocent participant for directions, and had a map in their hand. And so the participant gave them directions to a certain building showing on the map, and then there were two supposedly very rude builders who were confederates of the experimenters carrying a door. And they just pushed themselves through the two people talking to each other, simulating this blank screen you have. And while carrying the door, they swapped over the person. So the person the participant was talking to would continue to carry the door, and the person who originally carried the door would step in as the experimenter. And let's see what happens if we do it then. I just have to quickly find
the door study. This video shows a participant from a 1998 study by Daniel Simons and Daniel Lavie. Watch what happens as the unsuspecting pedestrian provides directions. The young man on the left is one of the experimenters. He has approached the white-haired man and asked for directions. Watch closely as two people carrying a door pass between them, and the first experimenter is replaced by someone else. Like many of the people in this study, the pedestrian was entirely unaware that he was talking to a different person. Approximately 50% of the people approached in this study didn't notice when the person they were talking to was replaced by someone else. This study was among the first to demonstrate that change blindness can occur outside of the laboratory. This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Daniel Lavie and is copyrighted.
Okay.
It is available
So
for use in talks,
much,
training, and teaching on DVDs from Viscog Productions.
Okay, going back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so we have seen that. We have talked already through the explanation of that, and this is just a repetition of that. For the door study and other changes, it has to be said that there are obvious limitations to that. So first of all, even if the door study, probably everybody would detect a difference if the change is too obvious. Let's say you replace a tall guy with a small woman. Probably everybody will realize that. So you need to have some reasonable amount of change in there. Or if you have the dollar note and exchange it for a euro note, again you would see the change directly. So it needs to be smaller ones. However, if you see them directly next to each other, it's very clear that there are differences. You know, in the flicker paradigm, there was one shroud that was gray, the other was blue. And also in the door motion, it was only black and white, but they had actually differently colored jumpers or coats on. There were slight differences in body size, and so it's not like that they took nearly identical twins or anything like that. Okay. So, yeah, we just talked about this as well. Sometimes happens that I just chat away and then fall a little bit behind with the slides. So we can see it happens in real life. Another limitation is, of course, when you know the people. So if you go on a date with your loved one and they go to the toilet and come back, and a different person will sit down at your table, you will notice that. And if not, then you probably have a problem in your relationship or something like that. Okay, So are there other points where this whole idea that attention influences perception has implications on our everyday life? And it actually has. One obvious thing is eyewitness testimony, where people have to report and identify and say, yeah, it was that person who did that and not the other person. However, there are situations where, let's say two people fight with each other and they are in between, sometimes hidden away behind a shelf or a column or something like that in a shop where you can't see them. You may be fooled by this change blindness thing, and your memory might, you may say, okay, it was that person who did that, but actually it was the other person. You were just assuming that. Driving a car in traffic. So it has been shown, for instance, that elderly are slower in detection of these type of changes. And for instance, in Germany, there are still some areas where you have these beautiful roads, which go straight, and then they are lined with trees close to each other. And then suppose the sun is at a low position and you are driving, you effectively have a flicker paradigm, because the sun blinds you very bright, then it's covered by a tree, it gets very dark and you don't see anything really, then it goes bright again from the sun, and that's natural then, for instance, to miss if another car moves out on your road or something like that. So these roads are known to be rather dangerous because of that. And human-machine interactions, of course. You shouldn't miss important signals. You think of pilots in planes or radar operators or things like that. Okay, so much for the introduction into perception. And if you have any questions, as usual, post them in the respective BBL forums. And then in the next part, we will start speaking about models of attention, cognitive models, how attention can be explained. Okay, thanks for watching this part, and see you in a bit.